Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kodash, that honors the apostles and the elders, great millstone, for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquathami. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Requai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of wanted to go through this statement that the Apostle Elder Gabar was referring to, in regards to essentially broadening your horizons, right? And he was reacting to this lesson here, in regards to the so-called nigger mentality. Because when you talk to a lot of our people, they don't really, essentially, especially here in the West, with this perpetuation of, of corrupted media, the way they see themselves on TV, the kind of content they subscribe to, these sorts of things, it really dumbs down the people, right? Like the scriptures talk about gross darkness to people, and especially when you talk to our people, when you ask them about, particular things in history, they're essentially, they're dull as a butter knife, basically, right? So I guess I'll just play a little bit here just to get an idea, and just stressing, I kind of just want to add to the apostles' lesson, in regards to broadening your horizon, because that's also the manner of kings, right?
He really is a God. Okay? And that's pursuant to Psalm the 82nd chapter, the 6th verse, which says this: I have said ye are gods. Now this is referring to the Israelites, beginning with the so-called black man who comes out the tribe of Judah. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Okay? Now in the Hebrew, the word there for children is sons. So what does the scripture say? That we are gods, beginning with the tribe of Judah, which is the so-called black man. Now the average so-called black woman doesn't feel that way, doesn't think so. She thinks very lowly of her man. But then when you see examples like what I'm about to show you, you see a different, what's the word I'm looking for? The word kind of escapes me right now, but you see a different example of how so-called black men are really treated outside, especially outside of America. Okay? And doubly so, especially if they learn the language of the foreign land in question. In this case, it's China. Okay? Which the two main languages over there is Cantonese and Mandarin. Now,
so I want to play too much of it, but you get the point. So this video the Apostle Gabar is reacting to, he's this Jake, he went over to China basically, and essentially he essentially mastered the language, right? So he's able to very converse very well with the locals there, the so-called Chinese people, right? And so it's really a sense of mentality, really. As a matter of fact, there's a precept on that in the Apocrypha. Let me just get that, first. Just bear with me on this. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, here it is. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 34, verse 9. And it says, a man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. He that hath no experience knoweth little, but he that hath traveled is full of prudence. When I traveled, I saw many things, and I understand much more than I can express, right? So, you see, the difference between, a so-called, an Israelite basically who's been cooped up in America for so long, and them not understanding, not having experience because they've been so pre-programmed, to the GMO culture that they've been subjected to. They don't see essentially a world outside of what actually happens beyond their physical borders, or maybe even just beyond their neighborhood, right? And this is just one aspect, because this truth, essentially it encouraged us, through our apostles and elders to actually, stir up that gift, basically, like it says, I believe in Timothy's, right? To stir up that gift and essentially to broaden our horizons. And that's kind of what I wanted to convey, through in this lesson, basically, right? It could be like in the video, the apostle is really stressing and discusses, the importance of language, because, that's one of that's one of the gifts, essentially, the interpretation of tongues, so to speak, right? And 1 Corinthians 12, it goes into that, as a matter of fact, let me just read a couple of it. Okay, here it is. 1 Corinthians 12, verse 27. The point in 28, and it says, "Now ye are of the body of a Mashiach, Yahushai, and members in particular, and the Most High has set up in the church first apostles, secondarily prophets, thirdly teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healing, helps, governments, and diversities of tongues," right? So you see, the ministry would have different people who are able to do and perform different tasks, right? And this is not for us to get envious of each other, but with understanding that, each brother and, even the sister, some of the sisters too would have like their particular roles, whether it's, making garments, so on and so forth. But, the ministry as a whole, it's, all these different talents, all these different gifts is for the edification of the saints, right? So, just broadening our horizons, it essentially is a very important mindset to have, because it's a mindset, of kings, right? Niggas, essentially, when you, this is why, I try to limit, like for myself, a lot of the, a lot of today's music that you might hear, because it really, it essentially, it dims the vibration of our people, and our people don't essentially see that. So, especially when our people, they stay cooped up, in Babylon for so long, they don't actually get an understanding of how things work, or even how their own body works. I remember, for example, having a conversation, this one time with a Jake, and was in regards to health. And then basically, he just, I got so passionate about the subject, and he just walked away, right? Our people are so, they're essentially destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? Okay, so let me go to, precept I had. Okay, this is Sirach 38, verse 24, and it says, "The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise," right? So when you go into that word, I believe it means to read. One second. Okay, so this is the word for leisure. Excuse me. In the etymology, it says free time, time at one's disposal, opportunity to do something, right? And that's what also the apostles were sharing. It says capacity, ability, freedom, spare time, idleness, right? To be allowed. So that's really the point, opportunity to do something. You have some free time, you might do some, reading, you might get into some research or something that you might be interested in, right? And it could be all pertaining to the scriptures, right? So, like for example, like a brother might be going into the importance of different herbs, right? And what different herbs essentially, do for the body, what they do for certain organs, right? Let me read that again. Okay, this is Sirach 38, verse 24, and it says, the wisdom of alert man cometh by opportunity of leisure. So essentially, having that free time. And he that hath little business shall become wise, right? And and this society is so strange too. This is the irony essentially in this society, because you have so much information. We're living in an information age, and our people are still dull. Our people are still, kind of stuck on stupid, basically, right? Our people are still, still in that state of like, oh man, okay, so February's next month. I want to, celebrate, Black history and, all this kind of stuff. Our people are still stuck in that mindset, despite all the information that is available, right? And on top of that, you have the apostles and the elders and, and prophets and, camps, constantly putting out, endless amounts of edification, right, to understanding who they are and their heritage and, coming back to the Lord and all this kinds of stuff. And our people are still in a very dumbed down state, basically, right? And then you take in so much of this, like, for example, on the television, and sometimes the social media too, it literally it causes a lot of brains to decay. Basically, I was watching a video on that. It causes the brain to rot, right? So this, a lot of this content on on different social media platforms and even on the television is not conducive. It doesn't enrich the understanding that you might have. Right, so, okay, let me go to, okay, this is for, excuse me, 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 29, and it says, and the Most High Yahweh gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and the largeness of his heart, even as the sand of the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled, and the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all men, even Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Chalcol, and Darda the sons of Mahol, and his fame in all nations round about. And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spake of the trees, and from the cedar tree, and that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake also of the beasts, and the fowl, and the creeping things of the fishes, right? So Solomon had a great amount of knowledge. That was one of the things, in the last chapter, he prayed for, Baba Kasha, give me the wisdom to be able to essentially instruct his people, to roughly paraphrase, right? And that, he had a lot of, like, just for example, just speaking of, like, for example, you have the cedar tree and the hyssop. Like, we know, pursuant to the scriptures, for example, that the Lord created medicines out of the earth, right? That's, one aspect of having, a lot of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And he that is wise, to roughly paraphrase, will not abhor them, right? So, it's this is showing an aspects of broadening your horizons in different aspects, because this is what kings think. When you look at, for example, the Biggie song, there's a Biggie song that says, money, hoes, and clothes is all a nigga knows. And you know what? When you really think about it, he's right. That's really all a nigga knows, right? But us in this understanding, we have essentially, and as a matter of fact, let me get it. He could tell you, about the nicest Versace. He can tell you, Jay can tell you about, Kobe Bryant's new sneakers, right? But Jake is dull, man. Where is that? First John. Is that First John 2? Okay, this is First John 2:20, and it says, "But ye have an unction from the Holy One, that ye know all things." So let's go into that word unction, because that's pretty important. Okay, so unction. Okay, so this is unction in the etymology, and it says an act of anointing as a religious rite. It says an anointing. It says, okay, that's pretty much the point. So basically, it's an act of anointing, right? And when you look at, going through our history, you had, examples of our kings, being anointed. Like, I'll just use King David as an example. They would pour the horn of oil, right? And then the Spirit of the Lord would essentially come upon them, right? And that's very, very interesting too, because what happens, the Spirit of the Lord, comes upon that king, right? And basically, when you think about oil, for example, oil, that like the physical I'm talking about, it makes a man's face to shine, basically. And the scriptures talk about that. Who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? Wisdom maketh a man's face to shine, right? It gives you understanding. That's another thing also. It makes that's what made, excuse me, those virgins, when the parable with the wise and the foolish, that's what made them wise, because they took oil for their lamps, right? So that oil is very, very symbolic, right? Let me go to okay, this is Sirach 39 verse 1, and it says, "But he that giveth his mind unto the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be also. He will seek out the grave sentences, he will seek out the secrets of great sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes, and he will travel through strange countries, that hath tried the good and the evil among men." So this is what makes us separate, and makes us essentially more conversant. It makes us more broad in our understanding, right? Going into these different things, right? Having this understanding, we're able to properly, and even also to apply these different things to our lives also, right? That is the mindset and the attitude of a king, right? Jake doesn't have the attitude. Jake essentially has the attitude of a peasant, right? They don't have the attitude of somebody who is having subjects ruling under them. They see themselves essentially in a servile state rather than a rulership state. Yes, they call themselves in the spirit Yes, they do call themselves kings. Yeah, what's up, king? How you doing, king? And all that. But they conduct themselves as degenerates, right? It's really and truly, first and foremost, a mindset and the washing of their minds through this word, right? That develops that king-like mentality, right? So, I guess I'll end off with this one here. Okay, this is Proverbs 25, verse 2, and it says, "It is the glory of Yahweh to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter," right? So, this is the mindset of a king, to actually, search those things out, right? That's what the those Israelites in Berea did. They were searching the scriptures. They didn't just believe, the things that were told to them. They actually searched it out, right? To get there and seek their own understanding, so to speak, right? So that's pretty much the point. Lord's will, this lesson was edifying. I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahabushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of great millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.